Hey, hi. How you all doing? Social media family. Been up any subscribers and likewise any visitors to that being on my own immediate personal social media channel and or chat room. Yes, how are you all doing? So I ask that being this question, disregard of what you're hearing in the background. It could possibly be just another crank caller, but then I will get back with that some other time. But trying to give some such a benefit of doubt with all things considered. Anyway, as I was saying, the more words are left before that interruption and asking questions. Yes, how you all doing? Well, hopefully everyone is doing at least okay. If not, better yet to be said, to be feeling all right. Or if not, best of all to be said, to be feeling blessed and stressed, more blessed than stressed, or too blessed to possibly become or be stressed. You and yours, your family and friends, and hopefully me and mine likewise as well, or all the same. Well, hopefully your persons are feeling much better than what my person is feeling like as of the present given moment in time. As for a number of consecutive days and nights, possibly in a row, I have been feeling once again up under the weather. Well, I have this some congestion, sore throat and runny nose. Is that what I'm saying? Runny, just feeling stopped up. You know, having become subject to experiencing, feeling like I'm suffering from some of such episodes or incidents of constipation and or likewise diarrhea from time to time, changing up back and forth. Yes, I know. TMI, too much information. Whereas I should become or be more careful before I were to possibly get to broadcasting that being of my own personal information, you know, being as it will constitute or will associated with and representing physical, medical health issues of any kind, sort, or type. Then I'm trying to walk by faith as a believer in God. Can't any weapon formed against us, being a persons of whom are of the household of faith, shall prosper. And we walk by faith, not by sight, And sometimes more than quite a few of us, well, that's not the half of it. All of us who claim to have become believers in God as Christians, being of the few as we are, not counting the false brethren, false prophets, and antichrist, of closet devil worshippers, not just the worship, but the worship sort of type, who make up the majority or most churchgoers, whatsoever or whatever religious denomination, from the pools to the pulpits. and that is including not even soul equal well, but especially those ungodly, godless, devilish, demonic, demon-possessed, prosperity preacher televangelists with their mega churches, fleecing their flocks of church members and visitors alike to their supposed so-called sanctuaries, edifices, premises of properties of real estate, and so that they could continue to support their luxury lifestyles of living in mansions and on their vacations, taking residencies in first-class hotels and motels, and continuing to be chauffeured in their luxury automobiles or motor vehicles, and limousines, and Mercedes-Benz, and Cadillacs, etc., to continue to be flown around by their private pilots and their private helicopters and jets and planes, rather than driven around by the private chauffeurs in their luxury automobiles and motor vehicles. And for that matter, to be sailed around the world in their private yachts, etc. And not that I had meant to sound and seem like I'm contradicting myself and the name title to the present social media broadcast, or for the content of this particular video. I just thought to mention that as I was just emphasizing upon some such other I mentioned earlier, and as I think of it with that in my mind, I continue to try to backtrack here for reason or purpose being in order so that I can go on from where and when that my person at last left off so I can finish up as in complete a form period of prior thought. And whereas we being of the few real or true believers in God as in Christians, from time to time must take that great leap of faith, and just really that much more at times put it all in God's hands, regardless of whatever the dilemma or the problem that could pose itself or oneself, whatsoever, whatever, or whosoever, whoever could possibly become or be a threat, a major threat, or minor one, or maximum or minimum threat to our own personal survival as believers in God, a.k.a. Christians, protesters being of a few. No matter what the problem, I go to the rock. You can't no weapon formed against us shall prosper. Even if some of us were to become subjected to experiencing civil and or human rights violation offenses, being similar to or in the same kind of thought to that being of an intimate, sensual, or sexual nature, being of which could possibly constitute, practically and possibly constitute a hate crime in that regard in reference to those matters, and being of which is the content of this present social media broadcast or video. And so I say and or state for the record, now that I've gotten the preliminaries or the basic intro as an introduction out the way, and be sure to just to excuse me, be sure to take the time out. Is what I meant to say. Not that I meant to sound and seem like Elmer Fudd or sliced along with the speech impediment or speech defect, and hopefully not equal as well like one of our late presidents of the USA who had become subject to experiencing symptoms of a memory lapse. Then, as I was about to say, or do say so now, and be sure, or as I was having in mind to say in more words or less, or paraphrasing, not quote exactly, be sure to subscribe to my social media channel if you have not already. And if you are still undecided as to whether or not you could possibly do so, then just keep coming back. But don't come on my page or into my channel and or chat room or comment section coming off like some sort of such a type of an internet troll. Especially the likes who could possibly be moonlighting as prank callers, stalkers, neighbors from down hell, and all etc. Or whatever other characters being of whom I may not have mentioned, but are to be included with the ones being of whom I had mentioned. Then because I will silence your chat after a while, although I would try to give you the benefit of the doubt of being lenient. And then furthermore, if you persist upon coming off like someone or such a one being of a person who is not just quite, but very much like so annoying, and as I have a zero tolerance level for internet trolls, and especially if I myself being that of my person could possibly be feeling up under the weather, then from there, I reserve the rights and privileges to seriously decide as to whether or not to block you. And the majority or most persons, being of whom I block, are blocked permanently. Whereas there are just so very few, being of whom I myself would permit re-access to my social media channel and on likewise chat room comment section once I were to block them. So you take your chances at how I could possibly be feeling at the moment if you come on my page like some kind sort of type of an internet troll, because there's no skin off my teeth, then because all you're doing is harming or hurting yourself. I look at it that is provided that I don't speak to your level of ignorance, insanity, and impoliteness, or stupidity, sickness, and or rudeness. Then, because life is too short, then to permit somebody else to take another person hostage to one's rather twisted, warped, wicked mindset. And so much for that conversation. And moving right along, as our kissing cousins across the waters of the, no, not the Great Pacific, that's on the West Coast, but on the East Coast, being the Atlantic Ocean, or the mother country, would say, being, of course, quite naturally, I'm making reference to the European country nation that had given birth to our own, that is supposed to be some kind, sort of type of democratic republic, a democracy in its own right, being as it is a Great Britain, a.k.a. England, that is supposed to be the mother of our own supposed so-called democratic republic or democracy of the USA, the United States of America, or West. We are supposed to be the sibling child of theirs. Yes. Anyway, dog. So I say, and moving right along, or on to other things. Yes. And now to dive into the present social media broadcast or video as we have it, as it is relating to or regarding or making reference to some such the most recent allegations or accusations, being of which a one Father Michelangelo later, little jokey joke, but being of a one Father Michael Flager have been charged with, you know, the Catholic priest who presided over or had presided over before he was suspended once again after the most recent allegations or accusations, for that Saint Sabrina witch Catholic parish, little jokey joke once again. That is Saints Sabina Catholic Church. As you all know, in times past, he had been charged with taking indecent liberties with underage male minors, uh, adolescent or teenage, or worse yet, preteen boys, regardless of race or walk of life, faction in society, or lifestyle preference. You know, and to compliment another Catholic priest for the likes of his kind. Not that all Catholic priests are the likes of gay pedophiles or the religious clergy for that particular religious denomination, being of those of the rank and file of the masculine gender or the male persuasion. Then there was one Catholic priest, then of whom had sexually assaulted or sexually abused, sodomized, raped, or molested 500 boys over a time frame period of something like, what was it, a decade or a decade and a half. And from there, his fellow Catholic priests had just decided for his own archdiocese to just throw him up under the bus, I guess, to get the heat up off of them. And here it is, we have another case of situation of Father Michael Flager, not that he himself had sexually abused 500 boys, or hopefully not, whereas he is now being charged with the same allegations or accusations once again, being of an intimate or of a sensual or sexual nature. Now I get to wondering from there, how is it after you had been, successfully acquitted of any, every, and all charges the last time, that once again this same allegation or accusation, or whatever I have said. Excuse, pardon, forgive me for butchering the English language of our own American dialects. But anyway, though, how is it that after you have been acquitted of any, every, and all charges of the same allegations or accusations in times past, that here it is once again, most recently, you are once again, I say, state for the record, being charged with the same kind of uh, intimate, sensual, or sexual hate crimes against underage male minors representing the same sex, being of the youth. Now, something is wrong with that picture. Understand what I'm saying? Either this, that male person of a supposed or so-called holy father, this one particular Catholic priest, is really putting forth some of such of efforts on his part of a man's intentions to sacrifice himself for the greater good, to better a vicinity, area, neighborhood, community, whereas haters are becoming quite or very much so disgusted with how he himself could possibly be cutting into the monetary financial profit pies of the criminal underworld, or he himself is nothing more than a closet repeated criminal offender himself who had not covered his tracks well enough so that these here sexual allegation or sexual accusation charges of hate crimes, of civil and of human rights offenses won't come back and hunt him again. So which is it, Father Michael Frager? I mean, something just don't add up. You know, something fishy in Denmark. Seriously, though. I mean, seriously? Are you freaking kidding me? You've been acquitted of any, every, and all sexual hate crime charges, being of which you had been alleged or accused of committing against underage male minors, or choir boys, for your own vicinity, area, neighborhood, community, parish. It's somewhere out there on the far south side of Chicago. Something like within the 7900 block going, what is this? Southwest or southeast? I can't remember. But anyway, here it is. He had been acquitted of any, every, and all sexual hate crime charges, being of which were alleged or accusated against, alleged against him, and yet he's right back in the fire again, or as they say, out of the frying pan into the fire. Whereas one, being your average individual person, regardless of race or walk of life, age or gender, would think that, you know, once one has been acquitted, you know, of some such allegations or accusation, that should be like end of story. And whereas it just gets me to reflecting upon the case with situation with old carrot top being our beloved honorable former ex-president of the USA, president DC of our nation's capital, being none other than the Führer for all races of peoples. The word Führer only means in German to be translated to be defined as meaning leader. It does not necessarily have to be associated with a criminal despot or dictator, you know, of the likes of Nazi Germany in the past, if you know what I mean. Read between the lines, fill in the blanks. But anyway, though, getting back to some such other, not that I had meant to sound and or seem like I'm wagging a dog. God forbid. Wagging the dog, that is changing the subject. But then I am more or less, well, I'm more of a Trump supporter than a Biden supporter. You know, because I cannot support a president-elect or president of the USA, of our nation's capital, who is an abortionist supporter, a.k.a. a baby killer, you know, coming against the Bible Belt of the Midwest, you know. No, I cannot support Rip Van Winkle, a.k.a. Sleepy Joe, a.k.a. Slow Joe, over Carrot Top. Old Carrot Top. Yeah, I cannot support President-elect Joe Biden over former ex-president Donald Trump. If President-elect Joe Biden is an abortionist supporter, aka a baby killer, compared to former ex-president Donald Trump is pro-life. You know what I'm saying? Then getting back to the original topic of discussion, I just brought that up, you know, as it is some of such of a similar or so scenario. Not that, you know, he himself was charged with what Father Michael Flager has been charged with. No. But I just brought that up and reflecting upon he himself was charged with something else, you know, old Carrot Top, former ex-president Donald Trump, you know, inciting this insurrection attempt to supposedly overthrow our government on January 6th. What was that calendar year? Was it 2021? I'm sorry. Now I am sounding seeming like, and I can contradict, like I'm having a memory lapse, like, you know, late President Ronald Wilson Reagan. I hope not likewise a speech, in fact, a speech impediment episode or incident as well, like Slash Stallone, Sylvester Stallone, or Emma Ford. Anyway, though, no. Getting back to some of such other, and to complete a former line of thought, and whereas President Donald Trump was acquitted not once, but both times, supposedly inciting a riot to overthrow our own American or U.S. government, you know, or inciting rioters to attempt to do so. And here it is, getting back to some of such other now, the original topic of discussion, that Father Michael Flager had at one time or another in times past had been accused of or charged with having allegedly, well, it had been alleged or you know, it had been brought to the attentions of the general public, or people at large, that he himself had been, you know, sexually abusing, sexually assaulting, sexually abusing, sodomizing, raping, or molesting underage male minors or boys, from adolescents or teenagers to worse yet, preteens alike, you know. And whereas when he was first alleged to have done so, or charged with sexual hate crimes against boys, he had been acquitted of any, every, and all charges in times past. But then here it is now, once again, it is being alleged, or he has been charged with the same sexual hate crimes, or has been, you know, allegated or accused of the same thing. And as I had said before, and I'll say once again, something's wrong with that picture. If this keeps coming back to hunt you know, I mean, I'd like to give him the benefit of the doubt, with all things considered, you know. You would think that it would have put a nail in the coffin of any of his accusers, past, present, or future. You know, but here it is. Somebody else is willing to put themselves at risk of being publicly ridiculed by charging him of having sexually assaulted, raped, or molested, or sexually abused one in the past. So what's your views and opinions upon this here? My social media family of subscribers and or visitors to that being on my own immediate, you know, personal social media channel, you know, chat room, comment section. Please comment as you feel free to do so. But then, internet trolls are not welcome here. You know, if you feel that you have to vent in a negative way, being of which would prove to become or be counterproductive, then I would strongly suggest or advise that you schedule for yourself an appointment with not only a shrink but an exorcist at that possibly, or as well or likewise. I myself personally prefer psychologists over psychiatrists, being because there's a difference. I mean, whereas psychologists, they can only go about administering consultational talk therapy sessions with their patients, inpatients as well as outpatients, compared to how psychiatrists can do both. They can administer consultational therapeutic talk sessions and prescribe medicines, or you know go about submitting prescription medication to not only their inpatients but outpatients of clients. Anyway, though, and on that last note of interest, I would like to conclude this particular social media broadcast, and I hope you all appreciate it because I have practically, not possibly, have had to move heaven and hell to produce it, so to speak. I just figure speech. And regardless of how I'm feeling at the moment, I may have to pay a visit to a local dispensary medical facility of an establishment or a place of business, at that being be it public or private, so far as hospitals, premises, or properties, and then likewise possibly have to do follow up at a medical clinic, depending on how I feel from here on out, because I'm still feeling quite up under the weather. But then, on this last note of interest, I would like to say, if you have not gotten Christ as your personal Lord and Savior, I would hope that you would think to do so now while the blood is still running warm in your veins, by recognizing and realizing what he himself had done or did upon the cross of Calvary on the hill of Golgotha, suffering at the hands of some such Roman soldiers up under orders of their superiors, be they militarist, political, religious, and or otherwise, from centurions to Caesars to Pharisees and Sadducees, but then nevertheless, as he was willing to go to that cross of Calvary to be crucified, and to fulfill biblical prophecy, to become the perfect sacrifice, the only sacrifice for you as well as for me. Don't steal my trademark physical gesture. I'm going to have to copyright this sometime. So that if anybody's been on whatsoever race and whatever walks of life, fashion, society, lifestyle preferences, being on the old, young, like both from sexual gender, male and female, representing not only the human species, but then nevertheless the global community within this post 911 era or a new millennium apocalyptic day and age, and whereas the doomsday clock is now at a few minutes to midnight compared on to our former previous prior to then was a quarter to midnight for these rather biblically prophetic times, so that if any of us were to profess some such faith in him, we would come and be blessed one God and another, more ways than one. First and foremost, with his salvation being, which is the only means by which any of us can or could possibly become citizens of the kingdom of heaven. Second of all, with his deliverance. First, you have got to get his salvation, otherwise you have nothing coming so far as blessings is concerned. And if you make the transition for the great beyond the hereafter without that fire insurance for the liquefied damn hell, and your final destination would be damn hell, much rather than,